Dayne Beamsy, grab a seat.
Here you go, mate.
We're about to head to a press conference, so we thought we'd better chat to you about what you'll get asked and what's ahead. Those sorts of things you might be asked about. You know, you've obviously had an outstanding year. People wanting to know whether you've changed anything in your routine, the way you prepare. You know, has there been a moment this year that's sort of turned the light on? I mean, there'll be a range of other things, such as, you know, was there any doubt about you re-signing, recommitting to Collingwood? You may get a question or two about how you've had some difficult times early in your career and you feel they're behind you. Just have something in your mind about that. And then also be discussion, I expect, about your Brownlow prospects. More broadly, you might get questions about, does this complicate things for Trav or anyone else who's yet to sign? You might be asked a little about, would it have been a good thing or a bad thing for Swanee to have played VFL? They're only peripheral things, but you'll get you can expect those sorts of questions. What do you think you'll say to those sorts of things?
I'm not a massive talker. You know, cameras after every game are at the door, following you in, asking you questions if there's an issue. I just like to go out on the ground and lead by example in that sort of way, so I think that's more for me.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Look, we are delighted here as a footy club to be able to confirm Dayne's agreement to a further 3-year term with the football club. We think arguably he's one of the hottest players in terms of form in the competition. I think to see someone who is realising the potential that he has so early in his life and so early in his footy career is great for the footy club, but more importantly I think it gives Dayne great promise that he can be a good player for a decade, and that's something that not many players who walk through the doors of AFL clubs can hang their head on.
I think for me it was just maturing a little bit as a person. I didn't have a lot of structure in my life. I probably drank a little bit more in previous years than what I have this year. And, you know, as a youngster, you probably sort of really don't realise how much you know, effect it can have on your body. And I've really settled into Melbourne life now. I've got a girlfriend and I own my own house, so it's I suppose little things and just maturing a little bit as a person. I think it helps you a lot.
I don't think exceeded expectations, but more so he's now week after week producing the sort of footy that we're coming to rely on.
The first time we saw Dayne was in 2008. Dayne certainly stuck out very, very quickly in my eyes, especially with his ability to find the ball in traffic. And there was one particular instance on the half-back flank where he took a really nice low ball under pressure, and you know, he just had half a second and saw an opportunity to release the ball. It was really evident quite early that, you know, he was a talent.
I suppose I sort of grew a relationship with Decker where I got to the stage where I actually wanted to come to Collingwood. Felt like I was already, you know, part of the club. It was kind of weird in a way. I spoke to him a fair bit, and on draft day, I think it was, yeah, he would have said he'd be out of Man Steel for that first pick.
It's an enormous amount of debate. Do we take Steele ahead of Dayne? And probably, and I didn't decide until 11 o'clock the night before. And the reason I took Steele was he was just that 1 year younger, because we took Steele as a 17-year-old. In fact, on the day, I remember going into the second round that Adelaide were the pick before us, and Hamish Ogilvie, who works for Adelaide, they're obviously sitting beside us, and I said to Hamish, you know, who are you guys going to take? And he said, oh, I can't tell you that. And as I said to Hamish, I said, well, mate, you're picking before us. I mean, I can't do anything about it. And he said, no, we're going to take the big fella, being McKernan. And so I thought then, well, you know, he's going to get to us. So which was tremendous.
Selection 29, Collingwood.
Player 208-022, Dayne Beams, Southport.
Steele got read out first, so I was lucky that I got through to 29, and I'm glad I did because I'm here now.
As soon as he's walked through the door, he's been terrific, and it's quite ironic that both Steele and Dayne are so close, because they were so close in terms of our consideration as well.
Always set myself to play a few games. To play 18 in your first year is something that it's pretty special. You always got that sort of talk of second year blues and all that sort of thing after your first year, but the second year was, I think I played 25 games in my second year, so lucky enough I didn't get the second year blues and was able to play in a premiership side, and it's something that I'll cherish forever.
17, Dayne Beams.
I didn't get to play in that one, and I suppose it was a little bit of a different feeling for me. It was I was really disappointed for my teammates and my mates. Yeah, it was weird. I knew everyone would sort of be upset, and I actually watched the game downstairs, so I was already downstairs when the boys came back in, and you knew they were going to be upset, but to the extent that they were, really just showed how much playing in grand finals means to you. And Steele's probably my closest mate at the club, so to see him in tears was obviously not a nice thing, and I just tried to get around him as much as I could. But I think that feeling that the boys had that day, it's going to really sit inside them and hopefully get us to where we want to go this year.
Beams from the pocket. And from the pocket, kicks an amazing goal.
Dayne Beams, over the last few years, has really elevated himself as a high-quality midfielder, become an important player for Collingwood.
I think he's just grown up really quickly here, and I think that a lot of players do it when they come to Collingwood, because there's you're under the microscope so often and so much. I just think you're forced to grow up and learn really quickly, and those that don't learn fade away and find the back door. So for Beams, he's someone who's really developed, and I mean, from my perspective, the last sort of 8 to 10 months has been a huge growth time for him, and I guess we've seen that in his footy. But also, he's just grown up off the field, I think, even to the point where we made a call probably a month ago that we felt that Beamsy and Blairy were showing the attributes that we need and require in the leadership group. So instead of waiting until the end of the year or the start of next year to make decisions on the shape of the leadership group, we actually brought the two of them in and made them a part of it.
We're actually having a shower, and Maxie said, I wanted to have a chat with you next week about sort of coming into the leadership group for the last few games and a few weeks of the season. So it was something that I never thought about. Never seen myself as a leader as a footy club. So something that I'm enjoying. It's definitely different, but if opportunity sort of arises next year, I'll most likely put my hand up. By signing the contract, it made me think back to when I first started. It's really important. My family have never been one of wealth. We've never had wealth as a family, so it's been, and you don't think about that as a player. You don't think about sort of your money and what you think you're worth and all that sort of thing. You sort of do let the footy take care of itself, and that's what you employ a manager for as well. They take care of all that sort of thing. So the deal I've got with the club, I'm really happy with, and the next 3 years are going to be really important for me and my family as well. Because at the end of the day, they're the ones that took care of me as a youngster. So if I can repay them in what they've done for me, I will. You don't play footy to finish outside the 8, and you don't play footy to not win grand finals. So it's what we want to do this year, and we think we're slowly building towards that. We know we haven't played our best footy this year, but as long as we're playing it when the whips are cracking deep into September, that's all we want. And really, it probably has given me a little bit of hunger this year that I want to get there again and play in another one, because I know how special it feels.
Takes a spectacular mark.
Oh, it's unbelievable. It's a risky kick because it's back into the corridor, but you've got to back your superstars in to do superstar stuff.
Tarrant! Oh, massive launch! That's as big as they come.
Oh, we're going to see this again, right in front of the Collingwood cheer spot. What an absolutely super mark.
Well, Pies fans, there will be hearts breaking wide open all over Pieland tonight with the news that Chris Tarrant is about to retire. Chris, welcome to the studio, mate.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, it's been a big couple of days.
Last week on the show, you were talking about your career. What's changed between last week and now, and when you've made the decision?
Yeah, look, I did speak to the coaches a few weeks ago, and I sat down with them and went through where I was at football-wise and made the decision then. Together we decided it wasn't the right time to say it just yet, so we waited till we thought it was the right time. I thought after a loss to the Kangaroos and leading into a pretty important game this week against West Coast and leading into another final series, I thought it was the right time on the Monday before the main meeting, and just to give the boys a bit of a pep up and keep it in the back of their minds that we've still got that dream of chasing that premiership.
Set the scene for us. How did it go in the meeting, and what did you say to your teammates?
Early on in the morning, I went and spoke to Jeff Walsh, and I said, look, I feel today is the right time to speak to the guys and let them know that I'll be retiring at the end of the season. So from there, we gather everyone up, and the masseurs and the physios and the guys who've been around the club for a while, and I always take my seat next to Dayne Beams there in the auditorium, and he whispered to me, he goes, something's going on here, why is everyone down here? And then Bucks has said, look, Tazza come up and say a few words and spoke to the guys and held us together quite well. But I mean, it's tough to do. It's been a long ride. 15 years is an incredible long journey. So it's always very hard to tell your teammates and some of your closest mates who had already told some of my closest mates beforehand anyway. So it wasn't a big surprise to them. But it's 3 or 4 minutes, and you just move on after that.
The premiership window's open. We're playing finals. Did anyone try and talk you out of your retirement?
Yeah, unfortunately not. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what that's saying. Maybe everyone's thinking, yeah, it's about time you nicked off, I suppose. 15 years, the oldest player at the club. So I think a couple of people were surprised, but I've always thought if I could go out on my own terms, that's the way I'd like to do it. I've been around for a while where you do see people hang on that little bit long, I suppose, and play that extra year where they shouldn't have, and end up playing in the reserves and sort of resenting football a little bit. But I'm still loving football and loving being around the club. And I thought this year, this could end up playing hopefully in another successful final series. So we'll just have to wait and see.
What does life hold now for you after footy? Will you stay in footy?
Not for the time being. I'll definitely stay in the health and fitness side of things. I've enjoyed that. Over 15 years it becomes almost second nature to you to get up and train and do those types of things. Ask me that in about 6 months' time, I probably might change a little bit, but I'll do that, and also do a bit of building development stuff that I've been doing for the last 3 or 4 years as well with my wife, so something I quite enjoy as well.
Well, mate, on behalf of everyone at the club and all the fans, it's been great. We've loved having you at Collingwood. We're glad you came back as well, and we wish you all the best for the future. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, joining us next in the studio is Ben Reid to talk about his future. Stay tuned.
Well, Nick Maxwell here. I just got here to Lexus at Blackburn, dropped off my dirty car. The guys are going to give it a clean for me. Just picking up the brand new RX 270. We're going to go for a drive to pick up the competition winners from the online competition that Lexus ran here at Lexus at Blackburn. We're going to pick them up from their house. We're going to go to Adidas. We're going to have a great shopping spree there at Adidas. And then Warren Stewart here from Lexus at Blackburn is going to shout us lunch. So it should be a great day cruising around in the new RX 270 and meeting some wonderful Collingwood supporters. Good day for it. Hello, Rita.
How are you?
How are you?
Good, thank you.
Nick, nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you.
Here's your vouchers.
Thank you so much. Come in.
How you going? Hi.
My brother Tony.
Tony, nice to meet you.
He'll be coming with me today.
Perfect.
Thank you
Sounds
so
good.
much.
No worries at all.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We'll grab whatever you need and we'll get out there.
Okay.
How you going, mate? Camera. We're welcome to the other centre, guys.
Great.
If you need any help, I'll give you a hand. Feel free to have a look around. Yeah, love it.
I think so too.
Well done.
Thank you.
See number 5 on the back.
Absolutely.
I think that Nick is the best captain that the Collingwood Football Club could have hoped for, and I think he's a great person now that I've had an opportunity to meet him face to face.
So Rita, you've obviously done well. Plenty of bags there. I've got some for myself.
Great.
Let's go have some lunch.
Absolutely.
Let's do it.
Thank you.
Claire went and got it, gave it to Fasolo. Fasolo around the corner. Very capable of these. He's got it.
Yep, so I've agreed to terms with Collingwood. Very good news. So I'll be with the club for the next 2 years. Very exciting. Really enjoying my football here at Collingwood. Great facilities, great bunch of people, great staff. So I'm really looking forward to the next couple of years, and hopefully I can really contribute. I definitely didn't want to leave. I really enjoy my football. I'm playing a lot of good footy, and the boys are great. So I guess the only prospect was possibly going back home to Perth. So I dabbled at the idea, but it definitely wasn't a high priority. So I couldn't be happier to stay here for the next 2 years. I love playing in front of the big crowds every week. Great support base, really loyal fans. And as well as that, there's obviously the Westpac team's getting redone at the moment, and it's probably only going to get better. So that's really exciting. I can't wait for that to get done. So it's really looking forward to being a part of the near future. It's great to see blokes like Beams who re-signed this year, blokes who are realistically are worth a lot more in the open market, but just want to be part of a really successful team. So I guess that instills a lot of confidence in myself to be part of a really successful team. Everyone that's here at the club wants to be here and has no inkling of going anywhere else. We all enjoy each other's company, and we definitely want success in September. So the boys who are coming out of contract, I'm sure good chance they'll all sign and stay on.
Yes, some great news there with Alex Fasolo committing to the club for a further 2 years, and now joining me in the studio is Ben Reid. Ben, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
You've got some exciting news for us as well.
I do. I'm very happy to announce I agreed to another 2-year deal with the Pies, which is great, and I couldn't be happier. Was it an easy decision for you to make, and when did you make that decision? Yeah, I suppose I probably agreed about a month ago. We had to finalise some things between my management and the club, and it's a pretty easy decision in the end. It's a great club to be involved in, a lot of good mates there, and just very happy to be there for another 2 years. We just heard from Chris Tarrant earlier in the show. How did you take the announcement that he was retiring? Yeah, it was a bit of a shock, I suppose. He got all the boys in on Monday morning, and a few boys weren't quite sure what the big gathering was, and he came out and told us he was obviously going to retire, and I suppose it just puts perspective for the young guys how quick a career can go, and he's had a fantastic career, and I think it just spurs the boys on to, I suppose, really give it a big shake this year, not only for the team but for also Taz as well. What sort of a hole does a guy like Chris Tarrant leave at the club on and off the field? Well, for me personally, since he's been there, he's been fantastic for me as the other key defender, I suppose. Last year when Brandy was out, he sort of helped me out with, I suppose, the forwards that I've never played on, and he had a bit of advice to me, which is, I suppose, I'll lose that when he leaves, but he'll also probably leave a big hole next to the big dumbbells in the gym where he works on his pipes every day. So, it's going to be sad to see him go. You guys sort of have something in common too, because we traded Chris to Fremantle for pick 8, which we then picked up you with. So there's a bit of a connection there. Yeah, we did, and I stole his jumper, and I think in his first couple of months he was asking me how much I got to pay him to give it back to him, but I didn't give it back to him. But it's a pretty fun time. What sort of an effect does that have on the group as well when Chris makes his announcement to retire? I suppose there's a bit of sadness. I suppose he's got a lot of great mates there, and they'll probably see him sad to go as much as all the other boys. And I suppose the one thing that we'll probably miss is, I think since he's came, his leadership, from what I've heard, is 10 times better than what it was. And the sort of advice he gives younger guys this year and also the year before is, I suppose, second to none. And that's the sort of thing I suppose we'll lose. And but we've got guys who can step in and fill his void once he leaves, like Lockley Keefe, who's obviously out for the rest of the year, but next year he'll be back and it should be good.
What needs to change from last week's result to coming up against this week, up against West Coast? How do we turn that around?
I think it's just getting back to the footy we play. They can test the brand. On the weekend our skills were terrible. Going inside 450, we didn't give the big guys much of a chance, and I think if we can tidy that up and move the ball a bit better, then we've definitely been for more of a chance to win.
Well, Ben, great news that you've recommitted to the club. We look forward to seeing you in the black and white for a few more years to come, and thanks for joining us in the studio.
No worries, thanks for having me.